right, yeah, it's a little guy. All right. Now, there's siege artillery and there is field artillery. The field artillery is the light and mobile pieces. This one right here is based on a captured British one. It's the 3-pounder. The favored gun appears to be the 6-pounder. And again, this is the weight of the shot that they fired. As you go through the loading procedure, every time you fire this thing, you have remnants of the powder bag. The powder bag could be actual wool flannel, or it could be a paper cartridge. Each time you fire, there's going to be remnants of that inside the bore of the gun. Every third or fourth round, you're going to want to pull out those remnants, and you have a corkscrew type device called a wad hook. This is a bronze barrel. It's a tin and copper alloy. It's very strong for its weight. That means that it doesn't have to be cast really, really thick like an iron gun. Iron is very brittle. Iron guns are cast thicker, and that means they're heavier. They then require a heavier carriage, making them less mobile. That's fun. You have the outside of a sheep put on the end of a stick. That's your sponge. It's been moistened. When it's inserted down the bore, someone tends the vent. Gunner, if you listen, hear that thump? We've created a vacuum, which is hopefully going to extinguish any embers left over from the previous firing.
Load with solid shot.
Okay, we're going to load with solid shot. Again, it's a solid ball that does not explode. Think about 18th century armies attacking in formations. The worst place is to catch somebody on a road and have that ball come zooming down the road as they're stacked in column coming towards you. Our success at Trenton, where we overran the Hessian garrison, General Knox had his artillery trained so as the Hessians were coming out of their barracks to form up in the road, you got cannonballs screaming down there, busting up their formations and preventing them from properly forming. Artillery can provide a lot of punch for an army.
Right.
Now we're going to break open the powder bag using a brass pick. That's a bronze barrel. You will not get a spark and prematurely set off your round. We have to complete the powder trail from the top of the gun down into the bore. You can use loose powder. You can use a powder horn. You can use quills, which is actually a goose quill filled with powder, or you can actually have a tin quill that precludes the need for you to pierce open the powder bag. Because the tin quill is sharpened, you can do it all in one shot. He's aimed the piece. We got an elevating screw to move the barrel up and down. The lower you put, the lower the ball's going to go, higher. A technique is
ready?
Tip the barrel down and bounce the ball off the ground. You can actually see it coming, which supposedly is about the most unnerving thing for attacking enemy infantry. Oh, got
Pulling lens off.
Lynn's. Oh, we're grabbing the other one?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll switch.
Yeah. Ours got. Okay, we're good.
Hey, ready? Get fire!
And I say, what do you got a woman serving the gun for?
Molly
Well,
Pitcher.
Even before Molly Pitcher, you had a woman named Margaret Corbin. She was manning one of the American guns in one of the outposts at Fort Washington, and her husband was killed, and she stepped in to help serve that gun. And the German Hessian artillery, firing in support of their attack, mangled her up pretty bad with artillery fire. And as these German soldiers overran the position, they were quite shocked to discover a woman manning one of the guns. So it did happen, guys. Now we're going to switch over to the big mortar. Batteries and forts are going to be bigger guns. They're going to be 18 pounders, 24 pounders, 32s. Your name, come with me. With that 32 pounder, everybody see that dome over there? Yeah. That's at about in the middle of Manhattan. It would take us a number of shots. Yeah. It would take us, I'm sure, a number of shots, but we could range that. We can easily hit anything coming, unless it comes in too close. That's the angled deck that makes the barrel level. And why the angled deck? So when it recoils, it's of course going up, which is going to slow it down, whatever. But more importantly, when you push that thing back into the firing position, you're using gravity to push it down into the firing position. And that's why the gun decks are done this way. With the mortar, with that little guy, you can move it around. I move it myself. This thing, you have to use levers. If we want to, and the only way that you can adjust distance on this thing is to add or decrease the amount of gunpowder that you use in it. Because you have the propelling charge, which is then going to ignite the fuse. Did sometimes the fuse not get lit? Yeah, that's how it happens. And then you got a shell that, if you got hit by it, you're about the unluckiest person in the world. It's the explosion and the iron fragments when it blows up that's going to cause the casualty. So again, we want to make sure there's no junk inside of there. And trust me, we found everything from rubber frogs to tennis balls, all kinds of stuff when we clean these out before shooting them. Now, the amount of powder, it's based on how far you want the shell to go. You're trying to hit a moving ship with a mortar, that's going to be pretty hard. When he was experimenting with artillery at where I work at, is he actually had brought down some mortars, brought them down to 5 degrees. So this is 45. 5 degrees is like this. Why do you want 5 degrees? Well, you know how hard it is to take something like this and then hit it where it's supposed to? What if you bounce the shells instead? When you build a fortification, you have dirt walls. If you have time, you put logs to hold up the dirt. The dirt is your defender. The dirt can take all the hits. When you start a siege and you start firing big, heavy artillery and blowing up the fortifications, you do not stop. Anybody tell me why you don't stop? Oh! I tell you what, you're going to be someone that's pretty smart. Because they don't have time to repair it. So, but by the very nature of what gravity does, when you dig these trenches for your guys to hide in, and you have these dirt walls, what shape does it take? You ever play skee ball? Colonel Stevens of the 2nd Continental set up actually a range in New Windsor, New York, 60 miles north of here, and his guys actually experimented with howitzers and mortars, bouncing the shells on the ground and then measuring all the distances. If I put 4 ounces of powder in this howitzer, the shell went 300 meters, 300 yards. If I put 5 ounces, it went 600. And they're writing all this down. So if they go to attack a place, if they can properly estimate the distance, they put the same amount of powder and the shell should go where they want it to. And it's a process where you bounce the shells. So remember, we got our ramp. So what if you bounce the shells, rolls across the ground, when it hits that ramp, what's it going to do? It's going to go up. Who cares how high it goes up? What goes up must come down. And what's behind the walls? The enemy. Colonel Stevens remarked when they actually didn't attack New York City, but went to Yorktown, Virginia to attack a British army, he said, we can now drop exploding shells behind the enemy's parapet, destroying them where they thought themselves most secure. So training is critical, and General Knox was constantly training his crews to where at the Battle of Monmouth, if you can believe it, the British ruefully remarked they had never seen artillery better served. All right, we're actually using a fuse to give us a bit of standoff. Normally this thing...